Hi everyone, delonewolf here and welcome to EVE Talk, your weekly look at the market in EVE Online. There's a lot of stuff happening at the moment. We have the Alliance tournament that's starting a few hours after my recording. Next up, we have a very interesting video, in my opinion, from CCP Seagull, who explains the roadmap towards the next expansion. So I would say it's planned for late November. And within the next 2 weeks, what I like a lot is that we should see the dev block on the industrial arrays. They're actually changed to engineering complexes in name, I guess because of all of the research stuff that's added to them as well. And in the week after that, so the 3rd week of October, they're aiming to get us more information on the new player experience. And from the video, it actually sounds like they're planning a complete revamp that I would say is a little bit based on a Valkyrie experience where, how is it described? You wake up after a battle that's gone wrong concerning the drifters, and then you will be led by a commander of your race and aura in order to achieve some objectives in a battle. My senses are tingling. I'm thinking we'll have some more events concerning the drifters before November, and I think it could be very interesting. I wonder if they'll do this in an instanced way or if this will actually be in like special pockets and things like that. Sounds very interesting, and I definitely look forward to any information now on the new player experience. But we are here for the market, of course. So let's jump in on the market quit bar, and as always we'll start with plex at 150. There we go. You can see that plex have gone up in the last week. Sellers are now at 1,145 million pretty much, and the buyers have had to go to 1.1 billion as well, so they've had to go up. In response to this, we can now start to see the clear climb since the end of the summer, pretty much. Let's say second half of July, we're starting to go up towards 1.15 billion on the chart, quite obviously. If you take the 1 year chart, you can see that we're still not at the high point of last year, which was at around 1.2 billion. So I still think that there may be a little bit extra in the works because of the possible alpha clone hype. I'm not selling at the moment, but if in the next 2 weeks the new complexes or the information on the prices of the new complexes are coming out, then I may sell 1 or 2 plex just to be ready to buy all the blueprint originals that I'll need. The good news on that end is that a trade got through for my Tech 3 destroyers, so that now put me at well above 4 billion in liquid. So pretty much the trade that I wanted to do over the summer did work out, and I think I'm pretty much ready for the complexes, although if prices that have been speculated on Reddit are true, something like 3 billion for the BPO of the medium, of the large, and 1 billion for the small, then I may need to sell 1 or 2 plexes to get some of the other blueprints for the service slots themselves. But we'll see how all of that works out. For now, my plex investment seems to be doing quite well, and I honestly think that after November, with the alpha clones, that we'll see much more demand, and that we'll actually see a peak after that. So it could be interesting if you manage to buy 900 million and you want to sell now. I wouldn't blame you. I think you're making a really nice profit already, and if you need the ISK, it just makes sense. But I'm still gonna hold on to them a little bit, depending on the prices of the expensive stuff that's coming out in November. I may sell a couple though. Next up, multiple pilot training certificates that already jumped to 1.15 billion on the chart on the 5-day moving average, which is a small indication that plex, I think, could go even higher than they are now. But of course, it's a different market, it's a bit smaller. The interesting bit here, buyers are at 1.120 billion already. They've definitely been forced to increase their buy orders. You can see in the last week that they've just gone up and up. So have the sellers of the trading certificates. They're pretty much drying up, and they're at above 1.2 billion already. If this is any indication for plex, then plex are bound to go up in the upcoming days as well. Pilot body resculpt also up a little bit, heading towards 280 million, but hesitating at the end here. So 290 million, I should say. So 300 million pretty much for the sellers, 252 million for the buyers of the body resculpt certificate. I think that considering how small this market is, it's pretty surprising how stable it is staying despite the really big jump up in plex prices here. So it's its own little thing, the body resculpt certificate, although it is strongly tied to plex and to Aurum. It is just a stubborn one, and it just does its own thing. Next up, the skill extractors, of course, very strong correlation between the extractors and the plexes. They are now up to 270 million ISK, 268 million for the sellers, 259 million for the buyers. So as I expect plex to go up, I expect skill extractors to go up as well. And that means that the skill injectors are going up as well, but they are still at just around 600 million, which I think is not making a lot of ISK for the SP farmers at the moment, compared to the amount of money that they would need to invest in plexes in order to start up a new character. That is one thing that we should keep in mind. Of course, there are people that have made the investments on day one when plexes were 900 million, possibly. Those will of course be running into profit territory still, because they've already recuperated those costs in the first few months, or in, let's say, the summer months that their SP farms have been running, and at this point they're probably still running at a profit. But 620 million for the sellers, 586 million for the buyers. Obviously under pressure from the increase in price of plex, skill injectors are now also going up in price. The volumes though here, 118 of them. What is interesting, I'm not seeing any new sell orders in the last few days, so people have basically been buying up skill injectors from the sellers up to 620 million, and as a result now we're seeing just older, more expensive orders that are sticking out of the seller side. Demand here, maybe it's a bit of a mixed picture to my surprise, and the volumes here are not that big. A quick check of the volumes of skill extract, that's still 50-50, that's still huge of course, which I think is the reason why it's so strongly correlated to plex. People are just still cashing out on that as much as possible, but that means that the margins must be razor thin between getting a plex and then turning that into skill extractors and then selling those on the market. But the skill injectors, yeah, they're going up in price, they have to. And right here it looks like there's a decent amount of demand that is just straight up going towards the sellers, and they're willing to pick up any skill injectors below 620 million at the moment. Volumes here, look at that, still 4,000-5,000 being traded. Pretty damn constant volumes, pretty big market, the skill injector market here. Next up we have minerals. Let's move on to that at 8.15. Tritanium, you may have already seen from the ticker, is up a little bit, but still on the chart not outside of its normal range of, I would say, 5.9 to 6.10 ISK here. And as a result, yeah, we're just on the high part of this band. I think still the sellers are at 628 and the buyers are at 588. New demand not that much, but 2 billion here, 150 million here, compared to the sellers at 600 million a couple of days ago, 270 million, 130 million and 900 million. About less in the last 24 hours. I would still have to give a slight edge to the sellers at this point, to be honest, because this one big order of 2 billion has a minimum volume of 1 million and is probably the reason why it's still sticking around at this point. I don't really understand why you would put this here, but okay, I would just be patient and wait for it to fill personally, even at the minimum volume of 1. And so as a result, I actually think that supply is up a little bit, and that we could actually start to bounce off of the 610 chart right here, and that more sellers will come in competing for lower price at this point. I still think titanium is basically moving sideways around the 6 ISK mark at the moment. Next up, we've got pyrite, still trending down, so that is obviously another indication that titanium is not shooting up, because there's really little room for it to do so when pyrite is still hesitating at its 6-month low towards 9 ISK. Sellers are at 9.14, buyers are at 8.7 though, and then 8.67, so they want to get the price to be lower, and despite that we still see 300 million units, 550 million units coming in here, which is bigger than the largest orders that we're seeing here of 400 million units and 200 million units, and on top of that these orders are already more than 24 hours old. So despite this, yeah, still an edge to supply, still pressure on pyrite to go below 9 ISK, and if it does, I mean, we could see an even lower bottom at like 8.8, 8.6, maybe even 8.5 if the pressure continues and is strong enough. Next up here we've got Mexalon, that was going up but is hesitating at the 68 ISK mark on a median daily price, so already pressuring to go back towards 64. Sellers are at 68 ISK and buyers are at 60 ISK. Pretty wide margin there, more than 10% between them. Supply demand wise, we're seeing 40 million, 50 million and 92 million. On the buyers we're seeing, and then 58 million, 40 million, 35 million. And again, someone with a minimum volume, must be the same person that is trying to pick up some mineral stocks at very specific prices in large enough quantities that they can make a profit later on or something like that. But I think that it's pretty weird to do this myself. Next up we've got Isogen. This bounce up here is now explained as I've been to CC and the new charges for the boost module take basically Isogen and titanium in its mix, and as a result I think that was the spike up here. Unfortunately, I think market forces are taking over at 1 charge a minute with 25 in the hold and being pretty damn cheap to make. I really don't think it's gonna have a measurable impact on the resource markets for these charges. You're not going to field hundreds of command chips at the same time, unless maybe you want to crash the server due to the graphics, but I really don't think that it's going to be that huge of a market. It will of course be made, but the consumption I expect will actually be relatively low compared, let's say, to standard ammo, of course. Next up here, so 88 ISK, we tried to go towards 90, didn't work out. Now we're already on our way back down to 84. Sellers are at 88.51 and buyers, there's one that's trying to buy just above 80 ISK, but then it's 77.8 and that is below 80 ISK, which is right here. Buyers definitely still want to see Isogen go even lower than the perceived bottom at the moment of just below 80 ISK. And when it comes to supply demand, unfortunately, here is already in the last 24 hours 13 million, 8 million, so it's not that big in volumes, but the buyers, there's a couple here, 8 million, 2 million, 9 million. So it's almost a balanced situation between supply and demand at these very low prices. So yeah, Isogen, I'm still building my stocks. If we again start to play with 80 ISK on the seller side, if we go lower, let's say below 85, and this goes to 77.8, so if these 9 million are filled, I'm once again putting up a buy order myself, trying to pick up some more Isogen below 80 ISK, because I think that is just a really good price. If I can sell at 90 to 100, which should be possible, I'm making a decent amount of money. Next up, we've got Noxium, still under pressure at 420 ISK at the moment, yeah, so not doing too well. 428 pretty much for the sellers, 391 ISK, less than 400 for the buyers. 2 million, 2 million, 10 million, 16 million here, again with the volumes, so that is the same person that is trying to pick up minerals, I'm pretty sure of it. And yeah, pretty balanced, but so we're bouncing around 400 to 420 ISK at the moment between sellers and buyers, and there's little indication that this is going to end. So I see a little indication that this increase in price here for titanium is little more than just a a reverse from 5.9 to 6.10 is going from the lower end of its band to the higher end of its band. And I'm not seeing any changes to this unless the war that is basically being fought on Reddit at the moment, with a lot of propaganda between CO2 and Test against Pandemic Horde and some other players. Don't really know all of the alliances by heart, unless there is some real destruction that happens in that war, which, well, I'm hoping it will start to do that in the next few months. Let's hope that the war can drag on. Add to that the expansion, then we could really see a big boom in mineral demand, and then people that have been buying stocks at these 6-month low prices, I think will make a decent amount of money. Next up, we've got some Nullsec stuff. Here is Zydrine, again going towards 1020. This is, in my opinion, definitely a time to try to buy between the buyers and the sellers here. 1011 ISK for the buyers, 1047 ISK for the sellers. Try to pick these up at 1020, and I think you're doing pretty good, considering there's very high chance at some point you'll be able to sell them for 1200 or even better. So seeing this on Zydrine is unexpected in my book, but means that I need to make a trip to Jita to try and pick up some more Zydrine. Next up, Megasites, also under pressure, but the 5-day moving average at least is staying above 1250. The bad news is that you can see the median daily prices are definitely starting to show more and more volatility here, with lows close to 1200, and the tail end of the chart is obviously on its way down again. So sellers are at 1295 ISK, and the buyers are not that visible. They're not that many, and they're trying to buy at 1100 ISK here. So yeah, 1100, honestly, pretty damn interesting. Small order of Megasite, I think, could be in order, considering we are at 1100 right here as the previous bottom. But the sellers are still obviously dictating a big part of the price at the moment, so it's going to be pretty tricky to pick that up. But again, if you need some Megasite for your production, buying at these prices makes a lot of sense, in my opinion, even straight from the sellers, if you're not patient enough to wait. But I mean, put up a buy order of 1200, and that's going to get filled pretty damn quickly, in my opinion, which is right here on the chart. Definitely not bad for later production, when I do expect Megasite could go to 1400, 1500 range on more demand. And then finally, we've got Morphite that is jumping up a little bit and got, I'm not sure. I think one of my investments on Morphite is true, but not as much as I would have liked to see. I still think I have one buy order hanging, but 9,300 ISK for the buyers, 9,700 ISK for the sellers. On volatility, we could go well above 10k, so I still think that if you want in on the Morphite opportunity, probably below 10k, then yeah, set up some buy orders. 9,400, 9,350 should be doable. Could be tricky, 9,350, but just don't go overboard. Just like with Megasite, we may yet go lower, but if you want to start building up your stocks, I think you're really not doing a bad buys at the moment in pretty much any of the minerals, except maybe Mexalon. You may want to wait for 60 ISK to come into play. But other than that, I'm seeing all of these as great opportunities to still stack up on some of them. Zydrine definitely stands out for me this week. Next up, PI. Let's not forget PI this week, 1840. And let's take a look at these. I do think that we will see less movements, as what I've been noticing here is that the PI movements happen over several months. So it's always pretty tricky, I think, to look for like Twitch trades or something like that, but it could be useful to try and see, are we at a high point, are we at a low point, and are we starting to see trends form. So I would say that for construction blocks, we're still at a pretty high point, just below 14,000 ISK. Volatility is decreasing, and the tops, as you can see, are going lower and lower. So we could start to see a slow decline towards a new bottom. 14k, I would consider that pretty high. 10k, considering this 6-month chart, I would consider that pretty low and an opportunity to buy. Consumer electronics next have dove off a cliff. as we saw last week, went as low as 11k pretty much, and the response, unfortunately, it has already come here with huge volume spike, pushing the price back up to 13k, so 13,800 for the sellers, 12,000 for the buyers. I would say at 12,000 for the buyers right here on the chart, you could still consider consumer electronics at the lower end of its last 6 months. And so if you want to stack up on these, right, if you want to purchase some of these, it could be alright, but especially if you're making consumer electronics, I think it's a good idea to just hold off if you can. Next up, we've got the coolants. I suspect this is at the higher end. Yep, 13,000 ISK, 9,000 at the low end. So here, still trending up slightly as well. I think with the new structures, there could be more demand for fuel, and thus there could be pretty high situations in the fuel-related PI stuff, such as coolants, which I'm making myself. Next up, we've got enriched uranium, fuel-related as well. So at 16k, as you can see, try to lose a little bit of ground, but we're just seeing still at a pretty high place at the moment. Sellers are at 16,280 ISK. So enriched uranium definitely in the seller part of its chart. Mechanical parts, 10,000 ISK, some volatility on a big spike, but that was at an opportunity to buy pretty low. So I would say mechanical parts seem to be average. 10,000 ISK seems to be a normal price, I would say, for mechanical parts, considering here where we're coming from. Let's take the 1 year chart. 10,000 seems to be average, slightly at the low end. It looks to me like it's tricky to make money in the mechanical parts chart from trading, but it's a very stable, productive thing to make. You can pretty much sell this at 9 to 10k anytime, which is an okay price for mechanical parts apparently. And so at the moment, I think basically there is no real trend to be spotted in this. 10k is maybe at the high end, right? 9.5k on average, I think makes more sense. 9k at the lower end, but between those two there's only 1,000 ISK, less than 10%. It's pretty tricky to make trades on this, but if you look at this 1 year chart, first 3 months you can sell at any time above 9.5, then you have one big sell opportunity, a dive down to 8k, but after that we're staying above 9k again. And so on this 1 year chart, for 8 months to 9 months of this 1 year, you could have sold without any problem at average prices, then more than a month at really good prices, and you just have a little bit of a dive below 9k that lasted just a couple of weeks. So yeah, mechanical parts, I would describe that, seeing this chart as a very stable one that you can just produce all year round, sell straight to the market, and always get a decent price for. Oxygen next, fuel related, going up to 550, obviously at a lower part of its chart. 588 for the sellers, 542 for the buyers. So again, fuel related going up. Next up, we've got robotics. That one is under pressure. We can clearly see that it is going down towards 95,000 ISK, which I would say is probably an average price. Let's take a 1 year chart. Well, actually, this is difficult to say, since we're starting out at 75,000 ISK, then a lot of volatility happening in April, but then a high point of 105,000 ISK for robotics in August, and now just slowly trending down, but still apparently at a really good price, considering 1 year ago we were at 75,000 ISK. So robotics pretty high at the moment, and apparently staying high. Could be because robotics may be needed in order to produce stuff for the new structures as a base material. I think it's possible. Next up, we've got the rocket fuels, pretty stable, weird chart. Look at the big spread between the median daily prices, but 11,500 ISK on average, and we're right there again. Let's take a quick look at the 1 year chart. Yeah, again, maybe slightly higher than average, but overall looks like rocket fuel is another pretty stable, producible, sellable PI good. Self-harmonizing power core, 2.4 million averaging out. This is of course a spike related to the Citadel expansion, and now we're basically stabilizing at an okay price, I think. Supercomputers next, again really weird charts. This has to be bugged, I think, because 5-day moving average without a median daily price going below here doesn't make sense. But 120,000 is actually currently selling for 135. Buyers are at 125. This chart must be bugged. Luckily in October we're getting the new updates and we may see something different. Next up we've got the supercomputers slowly trending up to 13,000 ISK after being at, let's say, 11,500. So there is a slight uptrend to be seen in supercomputers. Maybe the 1-year chart can give us an indication. We're definitely at the high end at the moment. You can sell without worrying too much on the supercomputer part. Average 11,000, low end 10,000. That's when you want to see your buy opportunities, I think. So supercomputers pretty high at the moment. Good to sell these. Test cultures, 8,000 ISK. 1-year chart could tell us more. I would say decent volatility in the test cultures. We're on our way down. Bottoms though are 6 to 7k, so we're not there just yet. But demand is very low. Supply seems to be quite ample. I would say test cultures in a buy opportunity, or at least it's forming. A bottom does seem to be forming, in my opinion, considering the 1-year chart. Very interesting test cultures here. If you want to pick some of these up or hold off from selling, I definitely would not blame you. And then finally we have the Whitware mainframes, which is of course going to see the Citadel spike right here on its way back down towards 2.4 million, which is the same as the power cores. 2.2 million in fact for the sellers, 2 million for the buyers, which is an okay price for mainframes. So I would say in the next 2 weeks, if you want an industrial array or what are they called, engineering complex, you should definitely look into picking up at least a little bit of this PI stuff, so that you're ready in case they do drop a pretty big bomb on us when it comes to the materials. And we can also expect, of course, that people that are not following the news, not following the markets too closely, will be surprised by what it's going to cost and could then rush into these markets. So I still have a lot of them left because I was ready to build an L Citadel, but I decided not to due to the price of the blueprint and the fact that someone deployed a large in the system already. And so now I'm pretty much ready for the complexes myself, just need to buy the blueprints, but I may purchase a couple of extra here and there at this point because they seem to be very profitable. So a couple 100 million in these I think makes a decent amount of sense as well. Next up, after PI, we've got Take One chips, that's 2730. All right, so I took a new set of Take One chips. We're going to take a quick look at what's happening. Here is the Abaddon, typical battleship chart, definitely on the low end. At the end here at 170 million. Interestingly enough, trying to go back up a little bit at the end. Supply demand, let's take a look. 184 million for the sellers, 165 million for the buyers. Decent demand here, that's quite surprising. Maybe these could be coming back a little bit. Abaddons though are a ship that are not in the meta at the moment, but we have seen really big Abaddon fleets before in nullsec, and so it could be related to the war that we see these up on bigger volumes. Next up we've got the Cyclone, also heading for a higher point actually. Median daily price at 46 million, average price 44 million. Currently sellers are at 46, buyers are at 41. Really much more supply than demand at the moment though, so the Cyclone could actually turn back from its increasing price, but average price 44 million, and for a decently stable Tech 1 ship, I like this chart, except one huge volume spike on a very low point caused one price spike right here. Next up we've got the Dominics. Alright, this is a picture perfect, very average shot at around 200 million. I suspect that the Dominics can do this because it is one of the best PvE battleships, first line battleships. If you want to get started on level 4 missions, then I think a Dominics just makes most sense overall, and you can then upgrade that to a Navy issue, to a Rattlesnake, to something like that. But if you're starting out level 4 missions and you want to do so comfortably, I think you want the Dominics. From time to time, it's also in the meta as well in nullsec because of the ability to field 5 sentry drones as well. And so as a result, the Dominics can actually maintain a very strong and stable price at 200 million. I think mostly due to its PvE demand that will be decently constant. Next up, we've got the Dragoon. Alright, definitely a decently stable chart at 1.2 to 1.25 million. Bit of a hiccup here on volume increase, but we're already back at 1.2 million. So not much to say here. Harbinger next. That's a bit more volatile, but yeah, actually 52 million to 62 million is 20% spread between the highs and the lows, and we see quite a bit of volatility here. Big volume spike at the end, causing us to jump up to 60 million, and we're recovering from that as we speak. I suspect that we're just not seeing a lot. Yeah, the volumes here, look at that, 1, 2, 4, 10 for a battle cruiser is pretty low, and I think here on the demand side, yeah, we're not seeing a lot extra here either, except for very opportunistic buyers, which means that on a day where a couple of producers are impatient, sell their Harbingers straight away to the market, we're getting these high prices. No, what am I saying? When the producers are willing to be patient and the buyers are impatient, they buy for 61, 62 million. So you're getting these high median daily prices. When it's the opposite, when it's the sellers that are impatient, they sell straight to a buy order at 55 million, and then we're getting these median daily prices right here, which is why we're seeing this volatility. But it's very tricky to actually make trades in this, because just a couple of sales, 10, 15 sales, are going to already dictate this switch in price. And so the next day you could get the same amount of sales and you could get the exact opposite in price. And as a result, this looks more violent than it is, because we're always talking pretty small volumes. Probably 1 or 2 players that are impatient on either side that are causing the fluctuations here. It's not like you can buy 500 Harbingers and then try to sell all of these at 62 million. It's just not gonna work that way. Next up, we've got the Kestrel, starts at 550,000, ends at 500,000. So overall, slight downtrend over 6 months, which is pretty interesting, but decently stable. Next up, we've got the MOA. I don't think we've seen that one in a very long time, if ever, on EVE Talk. Starts at 12.5 million, ends at 11.5 million, so averaging 12, right just below that. Actually, I would say, considering the entire chart here, 11.5 million seems to be an average, and we just had a bit of a volume bump, increasing to 12.5 and recovering. But compare this to the Harbinger chart, which is 20% spread here. The MOA goes from 11 million to 12.5 or 13 million, which is just 2 million on these, which is not, well, it's actually a decent amount, but it's a little bit less than 20%. And you can also see that the trends last a little bit longer. We're below this part as well for quite a bit of time. So this is healthier, more stable. So I would just suspect that the volumes are bigger, not by that much, but 30, 11, 35 is definitely 10 times more than the Harbingers, and demand here a little bit as well, 12, 27, 99. So that makes for a flatter chart, I would say. Next up, we've got the Navitas. That's surprising, seeing such a big price jump here on a frigate. But starts at 220, ends at 220, and so here I guess for some reason we have a bit of volatility on the high end for the Navitas. Some big volume spikes as well, but normally the market can absorb that, as you can see right here. So pretty strange situation. I couldn't tell you why people were willing to pay like 30% or even 40% more for Navitas for a while, but looks like things have stabilized on no demand and really high supply. Next up, we've got the Procure, always add a mining barge. This has been a request. So that one starts at 22 million, ends at 23 million. There's little to say, except that most of the time the Procure spent at a higher place than it is now, averaging probably 24 million to 25 million. Currently a little bit below average, so you can pick up some cheap procurers if you want to. 3,330 of them coming in one sell order is going to help stabilize this for quite a while, I think. Next up, we've got Thorax, starts at 11 million, ends at 11 million. So overall, again, decently stable chart. We've got maybe 1, 2, 3 price spikes to spots over 6 months. That's quite okay. A couple of bottoms as well. So we are on average, yeah, we're right on the average, I would say, and we're spending about as much time on higher thoraxes and on lower price thoraxes. So this looks like perfect tick one chart. A bit more volatility because it's a cruiser, but the volumes are bound to be there. Yep, 20, 12, 45. Decent amounts of thoraxes on the market, decent demand as well on the buyer side. So looks good. Next up, finally, we have the Thrasher, starts at 1.2 million, ends at 1.2 million. Very stable chart as well, except for one spike right here in the middle up to 1.9 million on bigger volumes here, I suspect. This triggered it, and here maybe, well, not sure why you would buy all of these on the downtrend, but whatever, someone obviously did this. Overall though, decently stable Thrasher market. We'll need a war. Honestly, we need a war to see some higher prices. Next up, we've got the Tech 2 market, 35.45. Let's take a look at these. We've got Basilisk. So this here is probably April, World War B, right? And after that, in May, we had the Citadel expansion, tax changes, and unfortunately that meant a very stable period. A little bit of volatility to be spotted here from 195 to 220 million, back down again, but now back on its average. So unfortunately, less volatility, less opportunity to make trade money in the Tech 2 market, in my opinion. Here's the broadsword. You can see again war volatility. May, here we have the Citadel expansion, stability strikes back. At the moment though, broadsword pretty low. Bars are empty at 216 million. So if you want to pick up a couple of cheap broadswords, you can start to do so. But again, if you want to make money on these investments in the Tech 2 market, you will need to know about nullsec wars, because it's going to take a pretty major nullsec war in order to move these, with big fleets of Tech 2 ships being lost. But broadswords pretty cheap at the moment, in buy opportunity territory if you want to risk it. Cerberus next jumped up from a low point at 200 million. I said you could pick up some Cerberus at this point, but unfortunately it takes like 3 weeks pretty much, I would say, for it to just jump up to 215 million, which is its average price. This volatility here probably related to the Shadow of the Serpent, because a lot of people went for Cerberuses for that event, but overall here after May you can see the decrease in volatility. The Damnation next, this increase in price probably speculation on the booster changes. Again, still it takes 2 months for that to materialize. Back to 320 and back up here again, also much smaller market, of course, much harder to make money in this one. But yeah, Damnations, I'm actually considering buying one myself. I think it just looks so cool, and it's an awesome command chip. I think I may want one just to have it, because I do have all the necessary skills. Next up, we've got the Hound market. Stealth bombers used to be my bread and butter for volatility opportunities. These would go to 18 million, and then the next week they'd be up to 25 million, and you would see this happen several times over the course of a year. You had these opportunities and you could spot them, but look at that again. War volatility. In May, we have the Citadel expansion, tax changes, and now just too stable. There's no money to be made here. Next up, we've got the Chronos, shows some volatility, but once again, the Chronos volumes just aren't going to allow you to make trades in this, and it is of course a marauder, which explains why we're seeing some more volatility, just because we don't have the volumes. Next up here, we've got the Raptor. Again, more volatility. May hits us with the Citadel expansion. All volatility is basically gone. We now, well, you could say that it took us another 3 months after the summer slump at 24 million to go up to 28 million. 27.6 for the sellers, 24.8 for the buyers. but again, you could have bought them close to 22 million and then waited 3.5 months to be able to sell now. Just doesn't make sense to do that in my opinion. Next up, we've got the Saber. Again, war volatility. After the war, we went to a pretty low point of 45 million, so that needed to be corrected a little bit despite the May changes. But after that, honestly, a couple months later, we can now see the decrease in volatility. We're gonna settle at around 50 million average price for the Saber, and it really doesn't look too good unless there's a war, as I've said, for this to show more instability. The Stork next, it is the one exception. Only since I start checking it, there always has to be someone that proves the rule wrong. Settles back at 60 million quite often and now jumps up quite substantially to 94.5 million. It is a much newer ship, it is a much newer Tech 2 ship, so I just suspect that a couple of people can manipulate this market. I would say that is the reason for volatility, but that makes it interesting, of course. If the Stork does drop back to 60 million at some point, you may want to risk that, because in the last 2 months we've had 2 decent price spikes of 20 million, which is 30% on the base price here, and now up to 90 million, which is like almost 50% increase in price. So it's definitely an opportunity here because it's such a new Tech 2 ship, and I think some people are trying to maybe manipulate it, or maybe if they're actively being flown enough and lost enough that this is normal market volatility. It's the one exception. Maybe all the new command destroyers could be interesting enough because they're so new. Next up, we've got the Widow. Again, it's Black Ops ship. Volumes are just abysmal. You can't really make a lot of trades on this, averaging 1 billion. Bit of a high point during the summer. Same for the Kronos here. And which was the other one? Damnation as well. But other than that, I mean, you're not going to make trade money on this volatility. And considering the volumes, I wouldn't risk any of this. So Tech 2 market, unfortunately, not looking too good until a war happens. Only one thing, yeah, Broadsword, very low point. If you want to risk the investment, you can do this one, I think, but be willing to not have that ISK for a very long time. Next up, Tech 3 market, 42 minutes. Yeah, I'll just round it up to 42 minutes for this one. Confessor stable at 50 million. I was expecting that to start happening, honestly, because still almost a full page, 57, 40, 34, 10, 10, 10. So this should put a little bit of pressure, but demand is up as well, probably due to the war, as you can see right here. So I suspect Confessor stable at 50 million is definitely a possibility. Next up, we've got the Hecate, goes up to 49 million. I think they'll all stabilize at around 50 because here we can see half a front page of new Hecates coming in at 49 million. Demand not that high. Yeah, nothing too fresh, not in too big volumes. So Hecate probably not considered as good, as much in the meta as the Confessor, and so it may settle at like 49, 48 million. A bit more volatility is possible there as well, but overall looking like it's going to head in the same direction. Next up, we've got the Jackdaw. This is the spike that I wrote. So I bought around here, I think, 40, 41 million. I sold for 49 million on this price spike. I tried to do it here, just didn't work out. Now, second spike up, which was going to happen at some point. My 15 got sold and I made a nice chunk of money from that. Currently going for 58 million. I think I said last week that the Jackdaw was primed for this to happen because new supply was just not coming in. And now, of course, we see a full front page. All the Jackdaws that are on the market have come back in the last 24 hours. So we must see increased volumes. Yes, we do. And this was an obvious possibility, an obvious opportunity, although I had already set my sell order a couple of months ago. Still very happy with what happened here. So now we are going to see more Jackdaws come to the market, push this back down, probably towards 50 million, because at that point it makes more sense to go for Confessors and Hecates. And This could cause a price spike in something that is not high enough in volume. I think there's still hundreds of Hecates here. It could jump up a little bit more, but I think it's not going to be a super spike like what we're seeing in the Jackdaw. And then finally we've got this Vapel here that is settling nicely at 47 million. What is the supply looking like here? Availability is just too high to really make it spike up that much. Someone comes in and buys a Hecate fleet, they're gonna go up to 49-50 million. So I would say we're gonna see a lot of Jackdaws come in. We could see Hecate go up a little bit more, but overall I think all of these are going to settle at around 50 million. This Vapel, there's just so many of them that this one might settle a little bit lower. But alright, my Jackdaw trade worked out. I think like 150 million made or something like that. Pretty damn good, I would say, and I'm pretty happy with that because it's the final piece of the puzzle that needed to fall for the industrial arrays. Falls right now, and we now know also that the industrial arrays are going to come towards the end of November, but if in 2 weeks we have all the details, I can make my final preparations, get really ready for the arrays, and this trade actually puts me in a great position. Next up we've got the cruisers. So the Legion fell back a little bit from 200 million to 160 million. I think we're gonna start to see these stabilize as well, as there is still half front page of supply, 20 and 12 at 166 pretty much. Next up we've got the Loki settling at 165 in the very same region. Again, new supply 28.9, only 2 orders, but they're pretty big in volume, so this should be alright to stabilize things. Then we get the Proteus again going back down a little bit towards 170. New supply is probably a little bit higher here, not in the amounts, but looks okay at 172. And then we've got the Tengu that is now settling at 165 as well, and new supply, you know, 5-6 new orders, about a dozen or so coming in here as well. So it is looking to me like the tech tree market is stabilizing at its current prices, which could be like the normal price for the upcoming months here. And then 65 million for the cruisers, 50 million for the destroyers, and I'm definitely seeing maybe there's just enough demand now that enough of the supply bumps, of the oversupply, gets picked up, that things can stabilize a bit more than what we saw here with bottoms at 40 million, then highs at 49 million. If you look at the Tengu here, you can also see a bottom at 140, then quite a bit of volatility. I think all of that is being absorbed now, and we're going to stabilize on the tech tree market through the winter. And then for the extra material, I am choosing myself this week, 47 minutes. It's going to be faction cruisers. So let's take a look at those. It's been too long since I've done like a faction check. So let's go for faction cruisers. We'll start with Navy. We'll just quickly jump on these to take a quick look of them. I don't usually check Navy issues, but here is the Augur Navy issue settling at 55 million after a high point during the summer. Quite interesting, the exact opposite of Tech 3. And so now here 55 million, a bit above average probably, but quite alright in price, doable. I would say if you want to buy a couple of them. Caracal, again, September high point, so a climb through the summer, and now falling back, way back, very violently at the end. Still 71.5 million for the sellers, but the buyers are at 60 million, which is right here, and I guess that the sellers just aren't getting rid of them anymore, so the price is crashing quite substantially. Next up, Executor Navy issue. Again, pretty high summer, and the first signs of a decline are coming here as well. Omen Navy issue, again, high summer, 70 million, and still there. Osprey, high summer, but first signs of decline. Scythe, the exact opposite. Scythe fleet issue starts at 70 million, ends at 45 million. So a lot of supply, not a lot of demand. You could pick up some side fleet issues for a long-term trade if you need to park some ISK, I think. You will need to do your own homework on this though. I gotta say, I don't check faction stuff all that often, and so if you do decide to jump in on a side fleet issue, I would say buy them, but keep an eye on them every week on your own so that you can sell at the right opportunity. Stabber fleet issue, I would say coming from an average price and heading for a low point, but the volumes are in already, so I suspect that sellers are back at 44 million. So unfortunately, Stabber opportunity already over. And finally, Vexor Navy issue heading for a high point. I'm hoping that this is not my videos doing, where I showed that if an alpha clone can use a Vexor Navy issue and some of the Navy issue drones as well, they'll have one of the better exploration ships that can even handle 3 out of 10s, 4 out of 10s without any trouble, and that could make them a lot of ISK. But I would say again a summer high, it could be. We're gonna assume that it was not my video that did this. And then next we have pirate factions, of course. Why am I clicking all of this away? Here is the Ashimu. Oh, one note, maybe high points here could be related to the Alliance tournament. I think that could be a possibility. We'll see if they get fielded a lot. Then that could have been the culprit for the high points of these Navy faction cruisers. So Ashimu, I would say below 105 million. At the low end, but still average, right? Just only buy that if you want to buy them and fly them. Cinnaball next, one of my favorite ships when it comes to the looks department. Just look at that, it just looks so good. My god, I love it with the carapace, right? That looks a little bit like a Bucks carapace, very organic looking ship with, yeah, definitely, right? Angel Cartel with Jovian tones to it. Absolutely love this one. At a high point, 155 million. So if you have a couple of those, you can definitely try to sell them for a very nice price. Ortrus next, average and actually on the tail end of going lower here. 290 million, becoming a bit more affordable. Ortrus also a pretty damn good exploration ship in my opinion. Phantasm next, going down to 140 million. Again, summer high right here. Could again be related to the Alliance tournament. I think it's possible. We're now going back to an average of 135 million. So just settling back here. Stratios next. Try to crawl out of the hole from 180 million to 200 million. Yeah, maybe you could make some money on that, but it's not as high as we would like to see it, and already on its way back down, unfortunately. The Gila next, decently high summer, and I would say that this bump up could have been the Purity of the Throne skins right there, and now settling back down as the event is ending to 240 million. Pretty expensive, but in my opinion, if you want a Gila for exploration, makes a hell of a lot of sense. Definitely worth the investment, I think. And finally, we've got the Vigilant, also again summer high, pretty high point right here, 200 million. Yeah, Vigilant blueprints, for instance, drop from Serpetis narcotics warehouses in Galente space. If you have one of these, build them immediately and sell them. So yeah, very interesting in my opinion. Actually, the faction cruisers, a lot of them very counterintuitively do the exact opposite of the Tech 3 ships, which have been at a summer slump. All of these, most of these at least, seem to have been at summer high points, and if you still want to sell these, I would say you can do so on most of them. Anyways, that's going to be it for this EVE Talk, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, I'll see you guys next time.